Good evening. It's me, Larry, coming to you live from Stevie's room. Tonight's video is on naming the cat and discussing names in general. Um, Sometimes people already have a name in mind. They may have been feeding a cat in their neighborhood and they decide at some point they want to take it indoors and they already have named it. Or they pick up a cat from the pet store or the shelter and they like the name that was given, assigned to it, and they keep it. I did that with Kira, but I changed the spelling. It was Kyra. I changed it to Kira. I don't know. I just like that spelling more. Um, Other times you're faced when you're doing rescue where you pick up a cat on the street that's in trouble. You don't even know if it's a male or a female. You just know this cat's in trouble and you're rushing it to the emergency clinic. And the first questions they ask you is, what is the cat's name? And you don't have one. And they'll write down, okay, Stray. And I really didn't like that. And obviously you brought in a second one, it'd be like Stray 1, Stray 2, Stray 3. I got to a point where I said, I've got to make up some sort of name. And it's usually a name that has something to do with the moment. For example, I found a cat in a paper bag at midnight in a parking lot. That cat was named Midnight, but later on earned the nickname Tootie. You see Tootie in most of my videos, and as well as the Big Toot, because he's so big. He was so tiny. If you look at my first few videos, you'll see he was tiny, bottle fed. He grew into a giant. I find that names like Tootie and Kuka are cutesy sort of names, but as far as veterinary credibility, it's a little harder when they call you up and you've got a people name. That sets them back a little. You walk in, they go, "What's your cat's name?" Bobby. They'll call you and they'll say the blood work for Bobby is in, and it's almost like they're talking about a human patient. And for some reason, that seems to set a little bit of a different tone. They don't want to call you and tell you Bobby's in trouble. So they don't want to tell you that Tootie's in trouble either. So, it just seems to. I don't know if it's just a respect factor to a real name versus a cutesy name. Names that are unusual get a reaction. For example, my very first cat, we named her the Bee. And they would say, the Bee? How do you spell that? I'd be like, T-H-E, new word, B-E-E, the Bee. That would get a reaction. They would call up, the receptionist would call up, the Bee is done. And you'd hear, like in the background, kind of chuckling in the background because they laughed at the name, but they also loved the name, and ultimately they loved the cat, who's no longer with us. She's gone, sadly. That name is retired. What I have found myself doing is reusing names of my indoor cats sometimes for the outdoors. I have so many. And indoors, outdoors. I'm in a cat world, so I run out of names. And if a cat looked like the Big B, I named him the Big B. Now the original Big B and the outdoor Big B are both gone. That name is now officially retired. The Big B was the B's father. There are names that are retired. There are names that have been reused. There are names that I find that if you named a cat that's an unusual name, like not just the Bee, but I have a cat in the house named 8. And now I went to the clinic the other day for the first time with 8. He had a fever. And they said, "You mean numerical 8?" I said, "Yes." And they looked a little confused. But there's a reason why 8 has that name. Because I have another cat named 7. And 7 looks just like 8. So I named 8 because 8 looks just like 7, and 7 was here first. And 7 had a real logistics to his name. You know how a cat has 9 lives? Well, 7 used up 2 of them before he made it into this house. So there's a logic behind the madness sometimes. It goes into the name. Um, I have noticed that names that are hard to pronounce, that come up from another person, or that you may not, or you may have even named it yourself, a name. Names that are hard to spell or pronounce get a little confusion at the veterinary's office. One of my harder ones in the house is Sefayin. I still haven't figured out a spelling for that name myself. I spell it Sefayin, Sefayin. Um, you know, that gets, it's the sweetest cat. Um, I find that there's a real reaction that comes with names. And the hardest one is when you have a cat that's a name and you want to change it. Like, let's say you named a cat because you got it early, you brought it to the doctor, you were pressed for what the name is, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, you're calling the cat something else. So do you walk into the veterinarian's office and say, well, the cat's name is when you're really calling it you know? Um, and when you change it on paper, they seem to really some of them really get uptight about this clerical adjustment, but it's too bad. I don't mind having both names on the paper. Um, I did have that for one of my cats. That's again no longer with us. That the name is retired. Original name was Silver Bullet. The nickname became Papurio, and the Papurio. Obviously, people responded more favorably to Silver Bullet, but he really was a Papurio. He just was, and he will be greatly missed forever, and will be remembered as the Papurio. Um, I don't post videos of the cats that I don't have anymore. It's just too painful to even look at them. Some of them I can't. I just can't. So it's always moving forward. Um, I that's, but the names have been retired, and the names come up in the discussion of names. Um, the most recent one, Michael, is a people name. Um, Again, when we brought that cat in, we were told it was a female. Um, it showed up at my yard. My housekeeper, who's a trapper, was for sure this cat was a female. Wanted to trap. Says, Larry, this cat's gonna get pregnant. This cat's gonna get pregnant. She pressed me. I said, okay. When the cat fell in my pool, that did it. And the fact that it swam so fast to get itself out. I mean, I was ready to go in right after it, and it came out, and I named it Michael Phelps. I'm calling it Michael for short because he was that quick. Probably would have beat Michael Phelps. Well, I don't know if it would have beat Michael Phelps, but that's in my cat world, he beat him. Okay, and he's here, which is most important. Um, so, um, you know, sometimes you're at a loss for a name. Like you're sitting there confused as to what you're going to name the cat, especially when you have so many. You run out. You run out of names. You don't want to reuse names on a cat that's in your own home. Um, so you make up something, and then you go with it for a while until you figure out what's next, if you're going to change it or not. I hope this has been useful. Um, by the way, if somebody picks one of my names, I would be honored, but not insulted. Um, you could, if somebody picks one of my retired names, um, well, I will tell you this. Those names that were retired were superstars. So, you could only hope that whoever bears that name can live the same kind of impression and leave that same kind of impression in your life. Anyway, be well, be safe, and have a great night.